Another day, another record here. Wall Street looks like it's going to close out at its second straight week in positive territory, despite all this dysfunction in Washington. But business leaders, you know what? They're getting increasingly fed up here, criticizing the government for its failure to move forward on major, very important policy items. I understand how they feel. J.P. Morgan CEO, he's a biggie. Jamie Dimon expressing his frustration during the company's earnings call today. I want you to hear him. Listen.
Since the Great Recession, okay, which is now 8 years old, we've been growing at 1.5% to 2% in spite of stupidity and political gridlock. Because the American business sector is powerful and strong and is going to grow regardless when people wake up in the morning. They want to feed their kids. They want to buy a home. They want to do things. The same with American businesses. What I'm saying is that it would be much stronger growth had we made intelligent decisions and were there not gridlock.
Oh. But we got gridlock right now, lots of it. And is it actually holding back business? That's one of the big questions. So joining me right now with their thoughts on all of it, Nicole Petallides, Digital Risk Managing Partner Jeff Taylor, and James Advantage Fund CIO Barry James. You know, I just want to explain to all of you, it was interesting, if you listen to this call, Jamie Dimon did not stop there. He went on to say, as one reporter asked him, well, are you frustrated with the Trump administration? In other words, are you blaming the Trump administration for all this gridlock? And he replied, no, that was frustration with you. So he's a little frustrated with the media because he makes the point that the media is not focused on the right things. He says the United States of America has to start focusing on policy which is good for all Americans, and that is infrastructure, regulation, taxation, and education. It kind of seems like a no-brainer, and yet, Barry, these are the issues Americans care about, yet the media is not focused on them. Does that mean it's more challenging to get these things through?
Well, I do think that the situation in Washington is coming to a head in terms of the impact on the economy. We've been running on hope to this point to take something from a former president, and that's what people have been betting on. And we're starting to see the optimism of small businesses and large businesses start to wane because nothing has been done.
But they're still betting on that hope, right? I mean, because you look at the market today, 25th day of records, lots of upside. So they've still got all that hope. They get that down payment on America and a down payment on this Trump administration. And so you're telling me if these things don't happen, we're in trouble?
Well, as I look at it, it's kind of like a race car. The stock market races, race car's winning, but it's got a bulge in the tire. And that tire is bulging because it's been a growth-oriented market for the last 10 years, for the last 3 months, all up until now. And it needs to come into to the pit stop and change over to more value-oriented. And what we really see is if you want to get the economy going, tax cuts are like smelling salts. They'll wake it up quickly. Yeah. And regulatory changes are like coffee. It'll wake it up and keep it awake for longer. And those are the things that I think we're waiting for that have already been built into the stock market. And I think it's building towards a more risky situation. We see too much risk in the market. Our analysis, the research we do, says there's about a 50% chance that in the next 12 months the market will actually be down, not up, even though it's up right now. So we say that the risks are fairly high today.
Jeff, do you agree with that? Do you think that there's real concern out there that if these things don't happen, the market's going to start to drift lower?
Well, I think what Jamie said is like the dysfunction in D.C. is really hitting all-time highs right now. And look at one thing that was not mentioned. Jamie did talk about Americans buying a home. What people aren't really focusing on is we still, 8 years later, post-financial crisis, we don't have GSE reform. We still have both Fannie, Freddie, and conservatorship. We need to get a plan in place for them. As sitting on part of the MBA board, we've given our opinions on guiding principles to get a proper structure, to get them out of conservatorship and functioning well so we can have housing for the American people going for decades to come on a plan, a sustainable plan, not in this 8-year holding pattern that we've had right now.
I mean,
so the dysfunction in D.C. is all over the place.
Get the government out of the business of lending money, both for homeowners and also in terms of college tuition, because that's certainly increased prices among tuition. increased prices among home ownership. I'd like to see less government involvement on that front, but we'll save that conversation for another day.
We agree.
Yeah, good. Nicole, you're down there on the floor. I mean, I can imagine that these comments just ricocheted off of those computer screens as people heard them coming in, because Jamie Dimon having the guts, frankly, to call out Washington and say what everybody's thinking.
Absolutely, and he really had a platform because everybody's listening to the J.P. Morgan conference call. Everybody's listening to Jamie Dimon on a record quarter, $26 billion for the company. So they're doing great over at J.P. Morgan, and he used this platform to say things that half the inner city school kids don't even graduate, the opioid epidemic, and there hasn't been a U.S. major airport built in 20 years. He's basically calling out Washington and using one profanity as well and saying, step it up, let's get it going. And his point, while it's not great to say it's embarrassing to be an American, but his point is that after he traveled to Ireland, Israel, France, he said other governments understand a better corporate tax scheme than we do here at home. Why are we making it so difficult? And we're not gonna see
why are
growth,
we
bad
allowing
policies.
other countries to be more competitive than us? We should be the most competitive place to be doing business right now. Why give any of that to Ireland or even the UK for that matter? I'm going to rest my case. Nicole, Jeff, very good to see you all. At least the market's up. Okay.